Hey, this is G4T, Survive and Thrive TV. We're here with Tom, and we're up here in 29 Palms.
Yes, 29 Palms.
And I want to keep calling you guys the sovereign community
right.
or freeman on the land, and you don't want
No,
to.
I don't agree with that. No, we're not part of a sovereign group like those in Texas that have shot police. We don't believe in anything like that. We are, each person is an individual soul created by God. That's what the people are, okay? We're not into a hive mentality. No one wants to be labeled. Because in reality, that's all we are, is that living soul created by God who gave us all the rights to live on planet Earth the way we have decided. Now, what happens is organizations were allowed to become corporations. I don't remember the exact date. It's something like 1947. They passed an act in Congress where every school district, municipality, every maintenance facility for the schools, police, all governments became corporations. They incorporated, and they became for-profit corporations. So basically, what's happened is that since a corporation cannot really deal with the living human being, the living soul, they're not allowed to because they're a paper fiction. So they have to create a fiction for you. So you've become a straw man. They've taken your given name and they've raised it all in capital letters. And they've abbreviated your middle name to just an initial. In this way, you're now a corporation, all capitalized. That's not the living soul that you were born, where your name was written with upper and lower case. That's how the different corporations are able to control the people. And what they've done is they've come up with what's called a unilateral contract, where there's just one signature. Well, everything in this life is in commerce. Everything you do is in commerce. All laws are in commerce. Uniform Commercial Code guides all of these decisions. When you're in court and they ask you how do you plead, this is an offer to contract with you. Everything is a contract. So basically, as a living soul, unless you agree and sign up a contract with your name, their name, an offer, and an acceptance of an offer, they have no authority over the living soul without that contract. So basically, when you sign your driver's license, for example, you've agreed to the codes and statutes and rules of their corporation, because they're all corporations. And unless you're a member of that corporation, you're really not obliged to follow any of those rules or codes, because there is no contract between you, the living soul, and them, the corporation. So you have to know how to and learn how to go between yourself, the living soul, who is the executor, administrator, and beneficiary of the straw man that they created for you by raising your name into all capitals. So you can be the living soul, and to operate in commerce, you have to have that corporate title, your name all raised in capital letters, so that you can get a marriage license, a driver's license, a gun license. Every kind of license they issue is always done in the full capitals, which is actually not you, the living soul. It's the fiction that was created for you without your consent and without your permission, and without full disclosure that you would be giving up your constitutional rights when you signed that one signature fraudulent contract. Okay?
What contract did you sign?
Anything you signed, it only has one signature, whether it be at the bank or with the Department of Motor Vehicles, is not void, is not valid, because there's no other signature on there. There's no explanation of what you get, what they're providing, and a full disclosure of what actually happens when you sign your name. Now, on a driver's license, driving by definition is a commercial enterprise, okay? When you operate a motor vehicle for profit, okay, to transport people or goods, then you need to pay licensing and registration. However, under Federal Code 49, Section 395, moreover, no license or registration is required to exercise the right-of-way, the liberty of the common way, and the right of free passage by any conveyance whatsoever for personal, private, or travel purposes. That is the federal law, okay? Now, one of the interesting things is many corporations, police corporations and other entities, have tried to take the American people's money away from them by saying, hey, you have to do this. Well, the courts have already decided this. Other people have tried this, and they've been taken to court, and the court has said, in the case of Murdoch versus Pennsylvania, 319 U.S. 105, no state shall convert a liberty into a privilege, license it, and attach a fee to it. So, you see, the courts have spoken that you cannot just take someone's rights and make it a privilege and say, hey, give me money. If you want to go to the store and see the doctor or buy groceries or go to the post office, you're exempt from having to have a license and registration for that. You're not in commerce. You're traveling from point A to point B. Okay? Now, if the state converts a liberty into a privilege, the citizen can engage in that right with impunity. Okay? It's like diplomatic immunity. Just because a corporation comes up with a bunch of codes and statutes and rules, those are not laws voted on by Congress. Only Congress can vote and make laws. These are what's called codes. They call it legal authority, okay? Well, there's a difference. Legal authority is not lawful authority, okay? Legal authority is what they think they have when their group of executives decided to make these codes. Hey, let's make it 55 miles an hour on that street. Hey, let's do this. And so they come, that's their little group in their corporation. And all of their rules and regulations only apply to the employees of that corporation, or anyone who's agreed and consented to those rules and regulations. It's just like at Jack in the Box. If I walk into Jack in the Box and I'm not dressed right, the manager can't tell me I'm not in the proper dress code for Jack in the Box. I don't work there. Your rules don't apply to me.
But if you talk too loud or maybe don't have your shirt on,
right,
they could kick you out.
Yes, they could. If I didn't have my shirt on, exactly right.
Or they have rules and regulations you have to follow because they're a private company under private property that you have to follow.
Well, you don't have to follow them because you don't have to eat there. You can simply leave. If they have problems and they got rules and regulations you don't like, you can say no. And here's the other part that's really serious that's going on in America. You're not a free human being if you can't say no. Where is my choice to say no? I don't agree with your organization. I don't agree with your rules and regulations. You didn't ask me to vote. You didn't ask me my opinion.
Well, if you have that opinion, there's thousands of things that exist in society that are wrong.
Correct. Every corporation No man is bound by any rules of an institution without his consent. That was a court case, something like 1796. Again, it would be like this, George. If me and you decided we're going to form a corporation, okay? And we're going to go out and polish cars, okay? But we're not going to ask anyone's permission. I'm just going to go to your house and I'm going to polish your car right there in the driveway. And I'm going to knock on your door and go, George, you owe me $45. I polished your car. You'd say, get the hell out of here. What are you doing? I'm like, hey, something bad could happen to you if you don't give me that $45. Maybe a window's going to get broken. Maybe your car's going to get stolen. Something could happen to you. So now you're scared because I look like a scary guy. I said something bad could happen. So you give me the $45. That's extortion. That's racketeering. The threat of danger and pain if I don't comply. And that's exactly where all the law enforcement has gone. Okay? So you have to say no. And the other part is, since everything is in commerce, unless they have a contract with your name on it, you're not obliged by any of these rules or regulations that are in conflict with the Constitution. The Supremacy Clause clearly states that whenever there's a conflict between a state law and statute and a federal code or constitutional right, the state code loses. Period. Just like now in California, they have what's called the medical marijuana law. The people went, they passed it not unanimously, but they passed it, Proposition 215. So if you're a medical patient, you need help, you can go to the dispensary and get medical marijuana. But yet, even though the people of California voted for this, the federal government can come and arrest everyone who's got a medical marijuana card. They can arrest everyone who has a dispensary. They can put everyone in jail because the federal law still does not accept marijuana, medical marijuana, regardless that the state passed it with the people's vote. The federal law can still put you in jail because of the Supremacy Clause.
And do you agree with that?
Oh, of course. I don't believe that. No, I believe that if the majority of the people of a state vote on a particular statute, then that's the law. Because what we got to remember that we, the people, okay, are inhabitants of the Republic of California. Okay? The state of California is a state corporate entity. Okay? It really is not part of the land. It's a paper fiction with CEOs and executives who all run the state for profit. Okay? So when you're not like me, I'm not a resident of California. Okay?
Where are you a resident of?
Okay, I'm domiciled in the Republic of California. Okay, the state of California is just only talking about the state government. The word state is a state of mind. It's the state government. It's a paper fiction. We, the living souls who live on the land in the Republic of California, we are free living souls created by God. Now, one other thing that's interesting, there's a little hierarchy thing here, okay? Most people agree that there's some kind of a God, okay? Whether it's whichever God you got, most people say, yeah, there's a creator.
There's quite a few atheists out there,
okay,
though,
but even so, that's fine. I'm with that also. But anyway, the point being is that the majority of the humans on the planet are in some type of a religion, and they believe in some sort of a God. So, God made man, okay? Man has to answer to God. Man created government. Man created government. The government has to answer to the people. The government created corporations. They gave them the permission to create paper fictions. You three guys are now going to be known as the ABC Corporation. You're going to be the president, he's the treasurer, and he's the secretary. Now, your corporation can go out and damage as many people as possible and screw up as much as possible. And the officers of the corporation are not responsible. You can only sue the corporation for its assets. Okay? But John and Bill and Bob, who are the actual criminals for this corporation, they go away scot-free. Because you can only sue their corporation and take all its assets. Meanwhile, they've taken all the money out of the corporation as personal income. So you cannot go after their personal wealth because they were acting as the corporation. Okay, see, that's why.
But you can go after the officers for criminal wrongdoing.
Absolutely. You can always sue someone as an individual. You see, now there are certain rules and regulations and codes and enforcements. Like, for example, most people don't know this. California Civil Code 1708. Okay, this is really important. Every person is bound, okay, without contract, to abstain from injuring the person or property of another, or infringing upon any of his or her rights. Period. Now, that doesn't matter whether you're a policeman, a state senator, you could be anything. If you violate another human being's rights, you're liable in civil court under Code 1708. Okay? That's an actual fact. Okay, now, here in California, California Penal Code 146. This is interesting. Every time the police take someone's car or seize their property, they've all committed a misdemeanor. Yeah, they've broken the law. Besides breaking due process and the normal sequence of events that's supposed to happen, every public officer or person pretending to be a public officer who, under the pretense or color of any process or other legal authority, does any of the following, and this is important, without regular process or other lawful authority, okay, is guilty of a misdemeanor. A, arrest any person or detain that person against his or her will. Now, why would that be in there that you have to agree to be arrested and detained? Because you have to consent to those rules. Because they don't apply to the living soul created by man, by God. Okay? Number 2, seizes or levies upon any property. So if they take your property, you've just had it seized. They just committed a misdemeanor. Plain and simple. Now, another interesting thing that citizens don't know is that there are plenty of laws to protect you. Okay? For example, Title 18. These are laws designed specifically for police. Title 18, deprivation of rights under the color of law. Now, what does that mean, the color of law? Well, let's say, here's an orange. It looks orange, right? I can show you an orange. There it is. Boom. Now I can hold up a color swatch. This is the color of orange. It's not an orange, is it? It's the color of an orange. So the color of law means that they're not law. Okay? So whenever, under the color of law, statute, ordinance, regulation, or custom, willfully subjects any inhabitant of the state, territory, or district to the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured or protected by the Constitution or laws of the United States, or to different punishment, pains, or penalties on account of such inhabitant being an alien or by reason of his color or race, they are prescribed for the punishment of citizens shall be fined not more than 1,000 or in prison not more than 1 year. So any officer who violates your rights is automatically committed a misdemeanor and is subject to 1 year or $1,000 or both. Now, when another officer appears on the scene, and then those officers, whether they be 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, and they huddle up and then they come back and they deprive you of your rights, that's called Section 241, conspiracy against rights, okay? And if 2 or more persons conspire to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate any inhabitant of any state, territory, or district in the free exercise and enjoyment of any right or privilege secured by him by the Constitution of laws of the United States, or because of him having so exercised the same, or shall be fined not more than $10,000 and in prison not more than 10 years or both. So what's happened is they've hired people, made them police officers. They should have been peace officers. There's a huge difference between a peace officer and a police officer. And they've lied to these people and told them that somehow they would have protection from civil rights violations, which they don't. No one is immune from a civil rights violation. Everyone can be sued for that. Okay? So, the question is, who allowed this to happen? Okay? Now, there's about 500,000 lawyers in the United States. I heard a number like that. That sounds about right. So then there has to be, what, thousands of judges who are all lawyers, okay, who have allowed this to happen. They are either some of the dumbest people on the planet, okay, or they have conspired to hide these rules, federal codes, and state codes that protect the citizens who live on the land. Okay? So my question is, who let this happen? Who at the Department of Motor Vehicles decided that I'm going to just send everyone a commercial registration fee and see who pays it? Okay? It's unconscionable. It's horrible. It's unlawful, it's unconstitutional, okay? We the people are not slaves to any organization. We're not personal ATM machines that can be just pulled over and hundreds of dollars extorted from us at will. That cannot happen. It's unconstitutional. Question?
So, I got a red light traffic ticket. Rolling through.
Right.
Actually, I was a foot over the white line making a right-hand turn to a freeway. And a $500 ticket, didn't pay it, got 2 of them. And they added $300 onto it, and they immediately suspended my license.
Right.
Now I owe a lot of money.
Right.
Have they overstepped their boundaries with the amount of money that they're fining Californians? Because I think a lot of people in California are getting their license suspended right now.
Well, that's true, and all that means is they can't drive a commercial vehicle for profit. That does not mean they cannot travel. You do not need a license or registration to exercise your God-given right to move from point A to point B. Since when do we have to pay to live?
So I can buy a little commuter car for $1,200, and I can drive it without a license and without registration, and without insurance.
Well, you can't drive it without.
No, I can travel in it to the beach.
You can travel anywhere you want, whenever you want.
And what happens when a police officer pulls me over for expired tax?
Well, then in that case, you should have your paperwork ready and show him your United States Federal Code 49.
Can we get a picture of that?
Yeah, listen. United States Code
And could you talk to us about this right
Yeah,
here?
well, that's the federal code that says, moreover, no license or registration is required to exercise the right of way, the liberty of the common way, and the right of free passage by any conveyance whatsoever for personal, private, or travel purposes. You'll notice it doesn't say commercial use.
And do we need to have them to see
And
that
then,
too?
yes, and on the back there you'll see the 2 court cases that have said that no state can take a right, convert it to a privilege, attach a fee, and license it. And that if they do, you can ignore it with impunity. Now, those are court cases that's on the books.
And then at that point, they will probably either arrest me or
At that point-
impound my car. Correct?
Well, one of the things you need to do well, first of all,
What will probably happen?
well, it depends. I recently had something similar to this happen, and he gave me my cards back and told me to have a nice day and let me go.
Aren't you required to show your ID when an officer asks for it?
No. Actually, the Supreme Court decision, and I don't have the number right now, okay, and there was a case where this guy wouldn't even tell his name, okay? He refused to give any information. Well, the bottom line is that the court found that you're only required to give your name. You're not required to provide documents, because this would be a Fifth Amendment violation, incriminating yourself. You don't have to provide documents that some corporate revenue agent can now start jamming you up. You don't have to give them other than your name.
You didn't get pulled over, but could you go over a scenario that probably typically would happen to someone like myself?
Well, when you get pulled over, there's a couple of things you got to know. First, when they throw their red lights on, they have just broken the law. Okay? When your red lights come on, that means there's an emergency. They've declared an emergency, and the emergency lights are on the car. Okay? Code enforcement is not an emergency. Speeding to an accident with fatalities and hurt people is an emergency. Speeding to a bank robbery is an emergency. Speeding to a wife beating is an emergency. Saving people's lives are emergencies. Code enforcement is not an emergency. So the minute they throw the lights on, I believe it's a misdemeanor, maybe even a felony, to declare an emergency where there is none. Okay? Number 2, when you're speaking to the officer, the first thing you need to do is establish, is he in fact a policeman? Ask for his identification. You need to see his official police identification. If he will not provide that for you, then he is an imposter. He has to prove who he is. You can rent a cop's uniform and a cop car from any movie studio provider who, you see him on TV all the time. Watch Law and Order. Where do you think they get those cop cars from? So anybody could imitate a policeman, and people have done that.
And showing the badge isn't enough?
No, because you can get a badge over at the uniform rental shop. I can send away for a badge online. That doesn't mean anything.
So what's the wording you use to ask for the license?
Sir, may I see your police identification? I want to be sure you are a policeman. And I need to see your oath of office.
And
He should have that with him too.
And what would his typical response be?
Well, hopefully he's going to provide that for you. Typically, they probably won't. I really can't speak for them. I haven't had that actually happen to me. But they're required to prove who they are and what they're actually doing. Now, another interesting thing.
Well, real quick before you go on,
Okay.
then what would be the next step?
What's that?
In the officer pulling you over? Could
Well,
you just run down what a person should typically do?
Well, again, you ask for identification, and then you ask what. I mean, I'm not telling people exactly how to go out and do all this, but they have to have a law. A law has to have been broken to be pulled over with emergency lights. These are codes. These are not laws. No one voted on them. Okay? They're just made up by the corporation. So if things push comes to shove, then you have to remind the policeman. Sometimes you have to say that you need to remain silent, Mr. Policeman, because everything you say and do from this moment forward will be used against you in a court of law. You see, you have to give them their rights too. And you have to let them know that they're treading on your rights and that, hey, you're in a peaceful way, non-violent, because every policeman can be sued in their individual capacity as a human being. As a human being, you're supposed to know better. You cannot, without contract, hurt any person's property or that person or take any of their rights away because you have no contract. And our entire world runs on contracts. People have to agree before something can happen. You can't just, these two people agree on something and you make everyone else have to do it. They didn't agree. You don't have a contract. You don't have a signature. And a legal contract has to have an offer. Here's what we're going to do for you. And you're going to accept that. And there's two signatures. The one doing the contract and the one accepting the contract. None of those are on any of the documents you sign, including your credit card.
Now, please forgive me, going back to being pulled over.
Yeah.
Typically what I've seen, it's usually with illegal immigrants
Right.
or people without papers.
Right.
They'll pull them over, and I've seen it on the side of the road. They'll automatically impound their car.
Correct.
And then they give them a date to appear in court,
Correct.
which they appear in court.
Right.
And the judge usually says it's $3,000 or $4,000,
Right.
but we're going to make it $800.
Right.
No, sir, I don't have the money
Right.
to pay. Go to payment plan.
Right.
That's the process
Right.
for them.
Right. Right.
Is that a similar process that will happen to me if that happens to me?
Well, that's what they want to have happen, okay? But you have to argue subject matter jurisdiction. They have no jurisdiction. Where is their contract that allowed them, that shows that you have agreed to these codes? That you have agreed to give up your right to travel freely, your freedom to move around the planet like you want. So,
I understand your motivation for living the life that you live.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think the police officer didn't impound your car and arrest you? Why do you think their motivation was? Do they just did not want any trouble?
well, because when you point out that you're breaking the law and you're liable and you could be arrested, I could call the marshal's office, United States Marshals. That's who's in charge of federal codes.
So they view you as a legal problem for them.
No, I'm not a legal problem for anybody. I'm living my life on planet Earth.
I'm talking about from their point of view, which I know you don't know.
Well,
I'm
their
assuming
point of view-
they're looking at you
Yeah,
and they're
right.
saying, in their minds, they're saying, "Oh, this guy, he doesn't follow any of the laws or
Right,
the rules."
right,
But
right.
you know what? I'm not going to mess with him
Right.
because I could end up with a civil suit or something.
Right.
Is that it?
Well, yes and no, George. Let me correct you. I do follow the laws and the rules. I follow the laws of God. Okay?
You
I
know that,
wait a
but
minute.
in their mind, they're not thinking you do.
Well, we don't care about their mind. They're public servants. They're supposed to be trained, just like if you were trained as a cook. You'd know how to make the hamburgers and you'd know how to do all of that. If you were a plumber, you would know how to do that. So as a peace officer, where your oath to God was to uphold the rights given to us by God, guaranteed in the Constitution, okay? So you're supposed to go around protecting my rights, okay, and keeping the peace. But what's happened is, due to budget cuts, wherever, the police have just decided to abandon a lot of these laws. See, due process means you don't take someone's property until they've had a hearing or seen the judge. That's what's due process.
But they impound it right away.
Well, that's a misdemeanor, right there. That's 1 year, $1,000. Okay? That's a misdemeanor. They did not have lawful authority. Legal authority is not lawful authority. Okay, legal authority is what they made up, their codes and their statutes and this and that, okay? Lawful authority is the Congress voted on a law.
What I'm trying to say here is this. If people choose to drive without a license,
Right.
registration, insurance,
Right.
there is a danger that
yeah.
they can go to jail
Right.
and they can get their property impounded.
Right. Your property will certainly get impounded. But then you have to go to jail. I mean, you don't go to jail, then you have to file a lawsuit. You have to take them to court. You have to have them explain to the judge why these codes are, why they're disregarding federal code. Why, for example, California Motor Vehicle Code. This is just outrageous. Section 260 of the California Motor Vehicle Code explains, and I think I got it almost right, a motor vehicle is a type used for commercial purposes to haul persons or property for profit or gain. Okay? That's paragraph A. Paragraph B says, house cars and passenger vehicles not used for the transport of goods and people for profit are not commercial vehicles. So that would mean they don't need any license and registration, because if paragraph A defines who needs a license and registration, and paragraph B tells you that your house, car, and passenger vehicle are not paragraph A, then that means it doesn't need it. Which is the reason that's on the books, is to comply with Federal Code 49. Okay?
We've been on this topic for 35
Okay.
minutes here. I just want to...
Okay,
go ahead.
So now, one day I called the Department of Transportation, okay? And I said, hey, what rules do I have? Do I need a license to drive on the highways and byways of America, to use the interstates and all that? What is the DOT's position on that? He said, there is no requirement. There is no federal requirement for a license or anything to operate on the highways of America, except if you're operating a conveyance that weighs more than 10,000 pounds. Most cars weigh way less than 10,000 pounds. Okay? But he said states have the right to regulate commercial vehicles only. Now, an example. I come into town, it takes me 12 minutes to get to town. Then I'm going to use another 5 minutes and go to Stater Brothers and buy groceries. I'm 17 minutes using the road. Then it's going to take me about another 15 minutes to go home. So in my life, in my day, I've used the public highway for 32 minutes. Now, the FedEx truck is running up and down the highway for 14, 16 hours. Who knows how many hours? The cab drivers, the couriers, everyone is using the highway for profit. Those are the people who should pay, because they're making money on the people's highway. But the people who only use the highway to travel, to take care of their personal lives, their life and their liberty. Everyone has a right to go to the doctor, go to the market, go to the post office without paying an extorted fee to highwaymen. Okay? And the laws I've told you, the court cases, other people have already tried this and were told, no, you can't do it.
Okay, last question with regards to driver's licenses. If this information seems logical to me, it's understandable, why isn't this catching fire across the United States? What is preventing people from fighting this?
Because most people don't know. And most people are sheeple, okay? I'm going to tell you a secret. I mean, it's not a secret. But I'm 68 years old, okay? I didn't find this out till a couple of years ago. I'm stupefied that I went 66 years being extorted out of DMV fees and all this other kinds of baloney where they want money for the process of living. It's like, wow. They completely duped everybody. And that's the part that gets me. 500,000 lawyers? I'm sure some of them didn't like paying $500 to register their Mercedes. You'd think the light bulb would have went off somewhere. But not a word. Because they're part of the system. See, if a lawyer actually came in and argued subject matter jurisdiction that he's the living soul, Your Honor, you have no authority over this man. And in the Erie Railroad versus Tompkins case, the court found with no contract, you have no case. Just like that. No contract, no case. So, there you go.
And most attorneys aren't doing this because they don't care.
Well,
they just rather pay their fee.
They just don't. I honestly think they don't know. I have a family member, or a friend rather, who's in law school. Okay, and I have had some conversations with this person, which have usually ended up kind of in an argument, if you will. They don't teach this. They teach how to argue cases, how to argue the points of law, of the law that they've established, how to argue in that system, okay? We, the living souls, aren't in that system if you don't want to be in the system. You have to consent. You have to agree to be in their corporate structure, or their rules and regulations don't apply to you, okay? We have
you are not in the corporate structure of the United States of America.
No.
You are, where were you?
I'm a living soul created by God living on the land. Okay? I live in the Republic. I'm an American national. Okay? American national. Now, an interesting thing that your listeners may not know is the United States government is a corporation. It's the United States of America Corporation. And the next time you watch the president or anybody on the stage talking, I want you to look at the flags that are behind him. They have gold braid. That is not the American flag, okay? The one behind the president is the United States corporate flag, not the We the People American flag.
So, I think this is great. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Hey, it was a pleasure.